business models don't succeed. People succeed. It's not, is Amazon saturated? It's not, is TikTok Shop saturated? It's what you're saturated. And nothing's saturated if you're good, and everything's saturated if you're bad, right? It's your responsibility, right? And thank God for that too, right? That's the thing. Like it's all in your control, right? And that if, you could put Jeff Bezos in any business and he would clean up.
E-commerce is the greatest business opportunity of our generation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ecom Unlimited podcast. It's your boy Kaj, here as always with my co-host Josh.
What's going on, everybody?
And today you might notice some different backgrounds. So we're actually not in our usual locations. I'm out in Salt Lake City on a snowboarding trip with my family. And Josh is down in Miami. So he's actually not too far away from our guest today, Flips for Miles himself. Now, this guy is a legend in the space. He helped us scale OA. He's probably helped more Amazon sellers scale their business single-handedly than probably anyone else I'm aware of. That may or may not be true, but it's definitely close to the top. So Miles, thanks for making time out of your busy schedule to chop it up with us.
Oh yeah, you guys are great. I remember when we met too back in the day, and then you guys obviously being Southeast PA kings, easy, synergistic, that's the mecca and all that. So, it's necessary, success was inevitable based on, the origins of such like a fertile region of the country for Amazon sellers and everything. So very, very simple getting into that and all that. And I love you guys, love seeing you guys a couple times a year in person and everything. So it's no brainer. I thought it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Southeast PA is a little nugget for the Amazon seller community. So why don't you just take us back real quick? Like, give us your backstory, right? So you've been involved in, the online space for a long time, but just give us like the overview for maybe some listeners who may not know who you are. Like, how did you get to the point that you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So basically started selling on Amazon in 2019 with the used book model and didn't really end up clicking with it too hard. That's really tough to do successfully. But then I started online arbitrage in 2021, and that was what was really successful pretty immediately from the get-go. I did like $1 million in sales that first year. But to kind of provide a little bit more context on why I think some of these things have been a little bit easier for me than I think for most people is I have a natural love for commerce and trading and negotiating and everything. And that literally goes back to middle school, and that in Christmas 2010, so I was in 6th grade, I got this Lego set for Christmas that I there's instructions and stuff, and I just couldn't get it to work correctly for whatever reason. So I went on my, it was either iPod or family computer, and looked up on YouTube the Lego Slave 1. Like, how does this thing work? Are there people talking about it online? And instantly that day found the online Lego community. And every now and again, I'll bring up the idea that everything good in my life has come from random people on the internet outside of basketball and my family, which are obviously two wildly important things in my life, right? But that day I learned about the online Lego community, and I'm pretty sure the next day I start pumping out videos basically on my own channel, basically with that, and then pretty immediately, kind of similar to the way I always recommend for Amazon sellers, finding people to work with online, understanding that there's niche communities on the internet like we're a part of with Amazon sellers. You need to find that stuff to be successful with anything. And I learned that in 2010, and most people are still not going to know about that in 2030, for example, or at least the way they should and the way you guys have done a great job at, right? So pretty immediately start meeting other guys online, getting on Skype calls back in the day, back when Skype was a thing, trading stuff with people, buying exclusive pieces, selling exclusive pieces. I would go to this convention one time a year in DC, which was a ton of fun. Me and 10 to 15 guys, depending on year, would put together a big thing together each year, which was called a mock, which stands for my own creation, basically. And then we would plug it on social media heavy. And that was really, really fun. That taught me a lot of delayed gratification, because that was in August every year. And we would start our plan right after. So everyone would go in DC and in early August, and then immediately the week or two after, you'd get started making your thing for next year, because dudes got school, some guys in college and everything all the time, so you got to start planning it significantly in advance. So that taught me a lot about delayed gratification. That also taught me a lot about commerce and the rarity of different things and the economies, because there's a huge Lego economy actually with sites like Bricklink and stuff. So pretty quickly there, and 2012 was the first time I went to that convention, and then just really dove into that world. And then in 2014, it's 3-4 years in, this one kid had these really nice shoes, and I was playing high school basketball. I was in high school at the time, and I'm always seeing guys wearing really nice shoes. How are they able to get it? These are pretty expensive. And he tells me he's flipping them, right? And me and him would trade Legos all the time. He'd be like, doing Lego stuff. I'd be doing Lego stuff. And he got in the shoe world. And I got in the shoe world too, based on him. And he did two things. One terrible thing, one great thing, which both ended up being great things, is he puts me on all the Facebook groups, right? Which is where shoe stuff was predominantly going on at the time. And also immediately steals my entire net worth on two deals, right? So I lose like $500 immediately. But the key is, because I've been kind of flipping Legos for a little while, I probably had some money left over and everything, and then just kind of build from there. But because I didn't have much money, I had a ton of time to learn and study the market and everything. And I also did really enjoy it. And then that was 2014. So I kept doing Legos and shoes all throughout high school, but the shoe stuff kind of started to get more and more component of my life, because it was Legos was just fun. Shoes was fun and made money, right? And it was kind of a little bit more of a cool thing to talk about. I would kind of hide the Lego stuff, to be honest, honestly. And that's, so I did that. And then, 2017 rolls around and StockX and GOAT come out, which are still around to the day. They're really good shoe marketplaces. And the awesome thing about StockX and GOAT was that there were no returns, which you start selling Amazon, you realize how much of a blessing that is, although that was years later, obviously. And there's a third-party authentication process, and there's no negotiation. So I was able to sell shoes without having to follow up with drug dealers on Facebook, basically, too. You know what I mean? And you have no idea if they're scamming you and everything. So that provided a scam-proof process that there was leverage on it, because it didn't take that much time. So I started going to the outlets, and 2 weeks before college started, my mom was like, all right, so you're going to get rid of all the shoes? And I was like, no, obviously I'm going to bring them all. I'm obviously going to bring them all to school with me. And luckily I had a super cool roommate that was chill with doing with me having a ton in my room and locking the door and everything, which was cool. And then started scaling that up a little bit more. Met these two awesome guys. My freshman year, best friends. They had a car. We weren't allowed to have cars on campus, but they had them when they would park off campus, and they would go out to lunch every day, and I would go with them. They would stop at the post office for your boy, right? And so that was huge. Now, the problem here, I get a little bit more serious about it, but they transfer after freshman year, and that was when a lot of my social circle, those were kind of my two guys, basically. And I ended up not putting too much effort into building social circle beyond that, and just kind of locked in on reselling, right? And that summer of 2018, it probably $1,000 profit month was lit at the time. It was really fun driving to outlets. It's nice and easy, selling stuff same day, no returns, super cash flow efficient, pay out 3 days later. It just has nowhere near the volume of Amazon. But that's also when I get a lot of free time back, right? Because I have my own whip, and my homies have left college now, right? So now I can go to the outlets every weekend, and I have all this time, and I'm not just gonna drive. I've never been super into music, and I also never really had time on my own like that, really. That because when you're on here, you need to watch YouTube videos and stuff, but I couldn't watch YouTube videos in the car. I never really listened to music. So somehow entrepreneurial, the algorithm starts speaking to me. I start to get hit by ads, and I start to find the online reselling community that's not just 16-year-old sneaker kids telling me I'm poor because I don't have a BMW, right? And so start to kind of expand beyond the shoe reselling world and find the eBay community and the Amazon community and Romer and Reezy and all these guys that are still around today, which is pretty cool. And start to see, okay, there's dudes selling stuff on Poshmark. You don't have to sell shoes. You can sell all different types of stuff on Amazon. The problem was back in the day, everyone was just talking about selling books because of all the gating issues, right? Which luckily aren't an issue today, right? In 99% of cases, right? And so basically get going with that, right? And then go through sophomore year, really turn up on the outlets, man. Because now I'm like, damn, there's people that are 40 reselling stuff, and they're giving out game left and right. Because the reselling community as a whole, the average age is way older than the shoe community, so it's a lot more welcoming. People a lot more helpful. People a lot more abundance mindset and everything. And so start to learn that you can sell stuff on Poshmark and have a 5K profit month, which is pretty cool. And because I'm consuming enough business content now, I'm starting to get hit by the big business influencers, the big Amazon influencers and everything. So I'm learning a lot, right? And Gary Vee was Reezy credits Gary Vee with why he started social media.
Shout
I
out
credit
Gary Vee.
like Gary Vee too, because Reezy talked about his book that he found. I read that book. It's like, dude, that makes so much sense. It's 2019 and he's saying stuff in 2009 that I was doing in 2011 when I was 12 and 13, which was like finding like-minded people online, posting content, letting the algorithms work for you. And I was like, damn, that's crazy, man. I was doing that stuff for Legos back in the day. Why am I not doing it for shoes? A lot of my shoe reselling friends have their own accounts. So that's when Flips for Miles was born, right? That's start of 2019, do that. And then 2019, at some point I had to do an internship for college, right? And I was like, dude, like this reselling stuff's fun. Like, why don't I leave college early? So let me do the internship early. Let me do it a year early, right? And I live in like a really small town in PA. So I just took this kind of layup internship with an alumni. It was unpaid too, so like I knew I'd be able to do what I wanted, basically. And so I was living on my own on campus. They like blessed with the grant too, I think, as well. So I'm living basically on my own. I had a roommate, but he wasn't always there. On my own, just slinging stuff in my college town completely by myself, like just kind of bored, honestly. So then I started doing Amazon, started doing books. But the key through all of this is that even though I wasn't doing Amazon yet, I was like super tapped in the community, and I had a lot of Amazon people following me because I would like ask questions left and right. And then when they came to my page, they'd be like, okay, this is a college kid. Very few college kids on here. He's actually doing it. He's documenting what he's doing. He's going to outlets. I didn't know you could sell shoes on StockX. What's that? They'd ask me about it. So I'm building these like pretty good authentic relationships because there's no one putting stuff out. To this day, there's no one putting stuff out. Right? So you guys do a great job at it. I do my best with it and everything, but in relative to like the vast scale of attention, there's very few people talking about stuff. So opportunity has no choice but to find you, right? And basically get really bored that summer and start doing Amazon stuff, do like the 2,000 book challenge in August of 2019. And like, it gets to the point where like Romer the Romer is like hitting me up to do videos. Like he's asking me, and it's like, that makes no sense. That shouldn't be right? Someone like but it just naturally, like you only get opportunities if you give yourself the chance to get them. I gave myself a chance to get it. And that wasn't intentional. It wasn't some weird thing. It's just like Gary Vee says to do it, I'm gonna do it. Right? Like these other guys are doing it. Steve Rakin's doing it. He seems to have made a bunch of money. Like, damn, $10K a month. Like he's making videos about like his net worth and stuff. I'm picking up game on that, assets, liabilities, stuff like that. Right? And then, COVID hits, right? So do fall 2019, pretty much focused on books because I had a feeling I would be able to get ungated at some point, but I didn't know how to, right? And then COVID hits, book market falls off a cliff, can't get any inventory. So I go back to shoes, and then COVID, you got all the time in the world to learn and stuff like that. So I spent time drop shipping during COVID. I spent time building a social media marketing agency during COVID. I learned a ton about credit cards, and I would be the credit card moderator for a bunch of big shoe discords. Then I'd sling some affiliate stuff here and there. So I'm making like $3,000 to $5,000 a month and about to be done college early too. So I was like, all right, dude, if I get on my time back, I can probably figure this thing out, right? And I'm not doing Amazon day to day. I still probably selling a couple books here and there. My account's there, right? But I'm tapped in. I'm talking to Carter Maxwell. I'm talking to some of these other guys. Cody does Amazon. I think his name's Cody does Walmart too. But like, I'm seeing what he's up to and everything. And so I'm tapped into the Amazon game, even though I'm not doing it. Like, I got a group chat, Ben Books the World and everything. I think it's still going today. And so I'm in the mix. Like, I'm learning stuff about Amazon, and then it's like, boom, huge screenshot of a dude selling pools. Huge screenshot of a dude selling toys. I'm like, all right, like, those aren't books. Those aren't used media. How the heck are those guys able to sell that? And then boom, immediately it's just like, this guy says ungating works. This guy says ungating works. I'll order from eBay and see what's up with it. Bang, approved. List some of the old shoe inventory. Finish college early. Start doing Amazon 2 months after I got all this free time back, and stuff's just flying. I only know how to do one thing well at this point, which is talk about what I'm doing on the internet. Low key, still the same to this day, and everything, right? And then. Basically just start posting about doing online arbitrage, just locked down at the crib early 2021. And then Garrett comments on one of my posts. I hit him up, say, let's get on Zoom tonight. He puts me on a ton of game immediately. One of the biggest blessings I've ever gotten was him putting me on that type of game that quick. And the key is why that happened was he trusted me. He knew who I was. He got to know me asymmetrically through my content, right? And then it's pretty much just been like the game ever since. We like really, really scale it up. Still pretty much my same friend group from back then. Daniel, who does Boxem now, he was in there too. Jake Carter, he's a great guy as well. And we just like really scaled up hard with online arbitrage and basically just kind of been doing it like that way ever since. And really just like when you get a good group of guys together like that, that's the key to like anything in the world. Like I was just knocking down limiting beliefs like crazy. Like first 10K a month profit, and 6 months later, first 50K in a month in profit, and it's like super cool, that whole process basically. But that's like honestly a super long story of like figuring out making money online over like pretty much like 10 years in terms of like making 6 figures and everything. But like it's pretty cool stuff. I think it's I think that the big like thing that I really emphasized that made things way easier for me, it made things way cheaper, it helped me avoid mistakes like crazy, was just forcing myself to have seats at the table around these different topics. And I think the reason a lot of stuff doesn't work for most people is because they don't have the right relationships around it. Right. And everything. And, us getting on like this, I get to learn from you guys, hopefully you guys get to learn from me as well and everything. And that's like, basically kind of like the origin story of how everything got started, to this day and everything. And pretty much just been doing online arbitrage primarily, focused ever since. Seller Amp, product research, Boxem for listing and everything like that. But that's kind of like to stop blabbering at this point. That's the origin story basically for that. Yeah, I know you said make it quick, but that was the story. Right? That is the
no. It's a good story, and it's always cool to hear that. From someone who's been in the game for a long time, especially for someone new, because when we first came into the space, like I was, binge listening all of the Buy Box Bandits episodes. And even for me, like at that time, me and Josh, like just listening to someone doing 50K a month, 30K a month, whatever it was, just felt impossible. But then continuing to hear stories of people like, this is how I started from zero and this is how I got there, then it's like, all right, then hearing that enough times makes you believe that it's possible for yourself and helps you take that action. And I remember, Josh, like one of our full circle moments was when Miles, you had us on your YouTube channel. That was like,
2022, man. Yep.
That was one of the craziest moments for us.
Yeah, that was so fun. I just remember I remember we hopped on a call, and this was like early days. Like we just realized like you guys were coming out with like some educational content, and like we knew we needed it. We just didn't know where to find it. And I remember, because I used to go to like Marshall's like after work, like almost like every day. And I could like almost spend, every time I went to Marshall's, I always give myself like 3 days. So it was like 2 times a week. I'd be like, oh, I know I could spend $400 at Marshall's. Like every time I go, pretty much like every time, like this is great. And you were like, yeah, man, that's like really like, I mean, I don't mean to like burst your bubble, but like, it's like not that great. Like I can like easily spend like 2 to 3K like a day, like online. And I was like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that. Like that makes a lot more sense than like going to these stores. But again, it was just like that, like again, the limiting belief thing where it was like, I thought like we were doing good. And we just needed a couple things here and there. And you were like, you guys could be doing like a lot better if you just focused kind of like, instead of focusing on like going to like in stores and more focusing online. And that's honestly when me and Kaj, our business changed drastically, from private label to, online arbitrage. And we started really having like really good, profitable cash flow months that has really grown our business to kind of where it is today. So yeah, that network and being able to, figure it out, even though you're not making money and you're like consuming content and you're trying to be in the game, like that's a really important aspect, for new individuals who are, on the fence about, starting something like this, because you have to know a lot before you come in. And yeah, you're going to make mistakes on the way, but getting all that content and knowing who to find when you have a question is a massive advantage, that you can have. So yeah, it's been great to, see your journey throughout all this flips for Miles. And I'm so excited, to see you in Miami this year as well. Talk to us a little bit about, what are some, like if somebody's new, and they're just wanting to start out, what are 3 tips that you would give them, that would potentially, improve their success rate when starting, an online arbitrage business?
Yeah. So, I'd say definitely, get out of like the just watching stuff phase as quick as possible. Like you learn to write by writing, right? You learn to walk by walking, right? You learn to sell on Amazon by selling on Amazon. Now, because there's money on the line with selling. Amazon does content, like anyone listening to this, consume some game from you guys and all that. Like that 100% helps too. And everything, but it's learning by doing primarily. So getting in the mix, getting in the arena as quick as possible, right? So I'd say number one, if you can close the time between thought and action as much as possible, right? Understand that 80 years ago, we would have been in the trench together in World War II. Life is very good. There's no risk. With stuff, there's obviously risk, but there's significantly less risk than human beings have historically dealt with, right? When you think critically about that, it makes it a lot easier to go spend some money on some products. Obviously, there is risk, right? So that being number one. Number two, the biggest difference between successful Amazon sellers and unsuccessful Amazon sellers, in my opinion, is who you have conversations with on a day-to-day basis. The better you guys have gotten in online business, I'd be willing to bet that the graph of the amount of Amazon seller conversations you've had compared to conversations about anything else and your success selling on Amazon has largely been relatively consistent, right? Is the exact same way for me, right? Who you talk to determines the results you get in life, right? Most people go through their life, and every time they've ever enjoyed something, every time they've ever done something often, it's always been with people they liked. Right? Dude, if I had only ever played basketball with people I hated, I probably wouldn't have played basketball that much. Or if I had to just play basketball by myself always, just shooting around, that would probably have been a little bit more boring too. And obviously it's slightly different, but people will go through their whole life acting like that, right? Which is reasonable. We're all the same way, right? And then think that they're gonna love and be really good at selling on Amazon fast when no one likes just sitting on their computer by themselves very often. Now, I'll do it from time to time, of course, every single day, right? But when you're new and don't have proof of concept and don't trust yourself and don't have any reason to trust yourself, that can be a very lonely thing. So I think using social media or Discord or Facebook groups to find other people to validate that you're on the right track and mastermind with and work through this stuff is very valuable, right? And the great part is that costs no money too, right? And that, all the guys you have on here, right? I know from Buy Box Fan, it's like pretty much everyone. If you could boil down the game they give, it's like buy stuff that sells quick, and I have a couple of friends that I do it with, right? Typically, right? And everything. And the community is huge with that, right? So get in the community, get in the game with that, right? And then third thing is understanding that you're not going to be good at this quick, and that's okay. College is 4 years for a reason. Grade school is like 12 years, right? No one's born being able to run. You walk first, or you crawl first, then you walk, then you're able to run and everything, right? So this won't work quick, but you can significantly increase your chance of success the longer you go at it because you give yourself more time to gain momentum. Right. And there were big inflection points for me that first year of online arbitrage of like, once I started buying 100 of stuff, I doubled in a month. Right. And that was right after going to Miami Sellers Conference where I was like, damn, like the dude walking out of the bathroom right there does over $1 million a month in sales. Like that's insane. But he's walking around just like I walk around. He's eating the same food I'm eating. He's living the same life I'm living. He's just making more money right now. If he can do it, so can I. Right. But he'd also been doing it for a while, right? So sticking to it and understand that this is a process and that's okay. But also, I think some older people that start this sometimes too, they really baby and coddle themselves around like, I'll go at my speed. No. Right? You gotta get to it right now, right? Because the quicker you go hard, the quicker things will get easy, right? Massive action leads to massive results. It just might not happen instantly, right? So keeping a long-term mindset is huge too, as one understand that things are gonna take time. Like I'm sure you guys, it felt really bad sometimes doing private label when it wasn't a great thing. But now looking back on that time of doing private label and learning how to do it wrong because it didn't totally work out has served you incredibly well, now adding values to brands, helping them succeed on Amazon, right? And it's also incredibly foundational stuff in the future for things you'll do better if you want your own private label. And so it's all stepping stones. Private label introduced you to the platform, right? Retail arbitrage showed you could be successful with it. Online arbitrage, gave you a lot more freedom, right? And now currently brand direct stuff is a step up from online arbitrage too. Right. And then you're also, with less risk, learning a lot of good stuff to go start your own private label down the line. And there's people I know who have sold a product wholesale and then made their own private label of it and then been incredibly successful with it. Right. And so it's all stepping stones that look really obvious in hindsight, but don't look obvious when you're doing it. But that's why I just jam my brain full of positive content. Living in Miami is great too because you hang out with make money online people all day that validate that you're on the right track. Being completely honest, that's really, really helpful. And you just jam your brain full of positive stuff that you're on the right track. Talk to people that are ahead of you, which in the Amazon space is incredibly easy to do, wildly easy to do, right? And that's cool. And there's stick with it for a while and it's, probably going to work and everything, but it'll work like slower than you expect in most cases. But that's because the longer you're in it, the more people that started when you started quit. So you just you're kind of like knocking down barriers of like that other people are falling off, like climbing up different walls and everything. And then, you got to learn how to make a shipment the first time, got to learn how to reprice the first time, got to learn how to list something on Amazon the first time. But you're month 6, all you're doing is sourcing, and you have 6 months of sourcing experience. So you're way better than you sourcing in month 1. And then it just becomes like simple execution basically to continue beyond that. And the market evolves too. You know how you guys had Steven on who did like the $1 million+ in a month with online. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's like, that was like unheard of, dude. Like back in the day, like no one was talking about merchant fulfilled. No one was talking about doing 100K a month plus with OA, right? And like, I would kind of like, at least like think that I was one of the first people, or like Garrett and I and Danny and everything were one of the first people to kind of like knock down that barrier. And now Steven and the boys and some of the other guys that are crushing with OA are knocking down major barriers for scaling up OA as well too, and everything. And so really understanding like there's no rules with this stuff, and your success is purely your responsibility, and it'll, come as quick as you can continue to take the right actions and build some momentum here and there and just never let go of it.
Yeah, very good. Yep, and it's funny because I forget how well you know our story, just like the private label to retard and all that stuff.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Like the private label days, I mean, those are still very, very fond days to me, because if it wasn't for COVID, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are now. Like,
no one would be. My God, yeah.
Our private label product was doing well until COVID. It was like once the global supply chain kind of got flipped upside down is when it was no longer profitable. But Josh, I always think about that story that you tell about, the YouTube videos you were watching, and there was the one guy versus the other guy. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was well, you tell the story.
No, go ahead. You can tell. I like how you tell.
Well, I just remember that in hindsight, you always say there was one YouTuber who was talking about making your own product, and there was another YouTuber who was talking about selling toothpaste. And it was like, well, making your own product sounds a lot cooler, but if we had known what wholesale really was at that day and we had just started flipping toothpaste, we would have been doing $1 million a year just on toothpaste in COVID. And now it's like the likelihood that you're going to make a lot of money selling toothpaste now is probably not as high, just because of it's a more saturated wholesale niche. Obviously, wholesale is still doable, but probably not with cold to gate toothpaste. But anyway, like you're saying, it's stepping stones, right? And if you don't start taking action, you're not going to get on that first stepping stone. And it might not be super profitable right away. Some people are, timing has a lot to do with that. But I mean, me and Josh, it's 2025 now. We started the business in 2017. Like, we've almost been doing this for a decade, which is insane, right?
Insane.
And we definitely could have scaled faster if we were in the community and having those conversations with other people sooner. But at the same time, like, that's our story and I wouldn't change it. But me and Josh both say this, like, if we weren't doing this together, the chances of either of us doing this on ourselves, completely zero, right? And so for the person who's running the business by themselves, like, you gotta get in the community if you want to have any chance of any high likelihood of succeeding with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, man, because like Corey will be the first one to say that he did none of that, like his first 5 years, but then
Corey's an animal. Corey's built different.
Right? And he'll also say that stuff really picked up once he did get in the mix too, and everything, right? But how do you actually do that though, right? How do you actually do that, right? My best way to think about it is, if you could equip like an Amazon seller for success, they would have a ton of friends, they would have done it for a while, and they'd have a lot of unique edges, right? They'd have a ton of context on the situation, right? Now, if you could design the most lonely Amazon seller, right? If you could design the person that has the hardest time doing this stuff, by far, no outside input, how would they behave, right? They would have only been doing it for a little while, which that you don't have a ton of control of outside of just starting quick, right? But they would never document what they're doing online. Definitely not. If they did, they wouldn't have a profile picture. If they did, it wouldn't be often. If they did, they would have nothing about their face, nothing about their story, et cetera, et cetera. It'd only be pictures of boxes. They would never follow anyone. They would never engage with anyone. They would never ask questions to anyone. They would never post the mistakes they made. They would never post the successes they had, right? All of that would give a pretty high chance of you having no one in your life that sells on Amazon and no sources of outside input outside of your own actions. Now, the interesting thing is that's almost every Amazon seller. That's how almost every Amazon seller is operating, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand you're competing against people like Kaj and people like Corey and people like Jonah who are having Amazon conversations all day and have a lot of experience, right? And that might sound daunting. Any market you go into is going to be like that, right? Business models don't fail. People do. Thankfully, though, business models don't succeed. People succeed. It's not, is Amazon saturated? It's not, is TikTok shop saturated? It's what you're saturated, and nothing's saturated if you're good, and everything's saturated if you're bad. Right? It's your responsibility, right? And thank God for that too, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's
bro?
the intro. Yeah. That's the intro. We're clipping it.
Yeah, dude. Like that's the thing. Like it's all in your control, right? And that if you could put Jeff Bezos in any business and he would clean up. You know what I'm saying? He would clean up, right? And everything. And so therefore it's like there's personal responsibility around this stuff. And I have been there, as you guys have been there, as a beginner with lack of confidence. But you just got to get the ball rolling, put one step in front of the other every day, and it becomes a lot less unreasonable that you'll find success over time as you get going with that. Or it becomes a lot more reasonable that you would succeed.
Yep. And just start posting on Twitter or X. I still like to call it Twitter.
Oh, it's Twitter, man. Yeah.
Post on Twitter, put your profile picture up, make it your name. And also, like, if you're in Discord too, like, make the Discord handle similar to X, because there are people who I've been communicating with on both platforms for a long time, and then I'm now just starting to figure out it's the same person. That drives me crazy. That's a side note. But like post on Twitter, right? Because it's like a very beginning platform. Like if you post something and no one sees it, no one cares, right?
No one cares.
Like, but just keep posting, be consistent, and get like that's how we started, meeting other. That's how we met Corey. That's how we met Jonah. I think we met you through Instagram or YouTube, but like
I believe it was IG. Yeah. And it's it definitely sounds counterintuitive. Wait, you want me to meet my competition that I've never met online? But then it's like, all right, like let's speak very honestly about what this is, right? This, business is essentially a competitive environment, right? Say it was a test in school and you were allowed to cheat. Who's going to make more money? Or who's going to win? Or who's going to get the better grade? The kids who's cheating or the kids who's not, right? If assuming we associate cheating with the context of working with others, of course the people who cheat are going to make more money. And luckily businesses like that. The big problem though is that your IRL people, you guys were very lucky obviously with that, but almost everyone's IRL people don't care about this stuff, right? Yep. They don't know about it. They don't know it exists or they either don't know it exists or even in most cases on the flip side, they don't think it works and they're going to encourage you to not do it. That's why the voices, that you're working with or the voice in your life are so important. They can help you or they can hurt you. And unfortunately, in respect to this field, the voice in most people's lives hurt them with it, except the people who take the actions to change that right there and everything. So, I talk about that stuff all day, but the short answer to it is like just the people in your life determine the results you get, right? And if you can create opportunities for you to get seats at other tables and invites to groups and all stuff that costs no money, and I'd even argue it costs less time because you guys work less to get this. You guys work less, or you guys make more per hour. You might work more hours, but you also make a shitload more money than you used to, right? Because you got better, right? And everything. So you pay down that ignorance debt and everything, and it gets a lot better too. But it definitely is the kind of thing that I completely get. It sounds counterintuitive. It sounds weird, create competition, whatever. It's how the world works, and it is your choice to either take action on that, or you can call yourself old. You can call yourself inexperienced. You can say, I don't know what to do. You're a human being. You have eyes. Look at what other people are doing. Pattern recognition. That's how the human species evolved, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, even in just like being humble, like, it's kind of funny. Like, I remember like being in college and I knew I wasn't the smartest kid in the room. And like being homeschooled, I could go up and talk to anybody. That really wasn't an issue. When all my friends would be like, oh, like, don't talk to that person. Like, he's like the smart person, like the nerd of the class. Well, I'd be the person who'd be like, I'd rather sit next to them. So like my life gets exponentially easier if I go find a smart individual who knows what they're doing and I don't know what I'm doing. And then I can kind of like go and kind of like figure out how they kind of work through this area of study. And I can just do the same thing and it makes my life easier. So basically, that's what I did all of college, and it actually worked out pretty well for me. But switching topics here, we want to talk about your YouTube channel. How many videos do you have out, kind of going on this personal brand journey? And then what kind of opportunities came from YouTube for you?
Yeah, okay. So, and the ironic part is this is actually some of my favorite stuff to talk about. I just very rarely get to. Right? Very, very rarely get to and everything. But yeah, so dude, like included like long form I remember I started about 3 years ago. I have this awesome VA. He's still my guy today. Still with literally, he's done almost every single video I've ever put out long form.
That's insane.
I have some videos from 2020 and 2021, but very predominantly once I got serious about it was 2022. This dude's completely the GOAT. He's a great guy. He's absolutely. I paid for half his wedding. Like he's the GOAT. Like he's a great guy. Yeah, absolute great guy. And so basically, yeah, pretty much, kind of keeping going with like the Gary Vee thing is that like, I was looking at, it's like, okay, who are these guys that helped me? What did they do, right? They weren't just resellers. They're entrepreneurs. I was a reseller for a while. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to do other stuff. I'm on Twitter. I'm seeing people talking about affiliate marketing. Okay, why are people talking about that Amazon software? A lot. Why does it say at the bottom of the description, this is an affiliate link, I may earn commission? Okay, they're making money from recommending this. I have people that ask myself questions about that too. Could I get an affiliate link? Boom, type it in. Oh, I could. Bang, now I'm making $7 a month. I'm making $32 a month off that, right? And so it just kind of all came together in that like, what I've always done as a human being is enjoyed posting stuff online to find my people. I didn't have a ton of my people in my life. No one cared about Legos, IRL. Not a lot of people cared about shoes, if anything, IRL. Definitely no one cared about Amazon IRL, right? So I had to go online to find these people, right? And then I saw that there were further opportunities beyond that in like software and education and stuff like that, basically. And I realized that I didn't just want to like, flip stuff forever, right? So like basically get into that stuff and everything. And people have misconceptions, and that when we talk about posting content, we mean doing stuff like I do, doing stuff like you guys do. Like you guys do like in-person episodes, right?
We've done a couple.
That's fire, right?
Virtual,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like, dude, all nicely done up, and yeah, exactly, right? That is the exact opposite of what you have to do when you're a newer seller. You as a newer seller, you are optimizing to find the 2 to 5 people that you're going to talk to every day about the stuff. Now the problem is, those people want to find you too. The problem is they're also self-conscious. They also have limiting beliefs around them doing it. They also are afraid of their IRL friends finding it. Therefore, you have to be the one that takes personal responsibility to go find them, right? So I obviously have been working on the personal brand for years. I knew about personal branding before I knew about Amazon from Gary Vee and everything, but then pretty much found him at the same time, right? And so I just see like tons of opportunity with like building trust with as many people online as possible, helping people solve problems. And then honestly, it just ends up being a very selfish thing that I feel like the more helpful stuff I put out, the more money I end up making too, as well. So incentives end up aligning on that as well too. So it pretty obviously advantageous in that, but like, I'd be lying if it weren't to make money. You know what I mean? Like I just is completely honestly, you know what I mean? And everything. And some people like, so many people try to like, mask their intention and everything. But like, that's the cool thing is, man, like, if I put out good videos, people are going to use Seller Amp, people are going to use Boxem and everything. And that's a beautiful thing,
How many YouTube videos long form videos do you think you've made at this point?
Ooh, probably in the ballpark of like maybe 200 or so, maybe a little bit more though. Something around that. But like, once again, like you go back to like, literally, like I had this Twitter account back in the day, 2020, before I was even doing online arbitrage. I was talking about like shoe reselling, right? And I would just like slide in these people's DMs and say like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I did like 7 podcasts, all with dudes who like, at least they're all multimillionaires now. Some of them were back then, and they would just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's that easy. And that if you just ask, like literally, I started literally 2020 decided to make this podcast and had like 7 people on. It's my first videos. I'm gonna keep them up forever. And literally like, if you ask, like people come to you right now, if you slide into if you slide into my DMs with no account and no page and say, do you want to come on a podcast? I'm going to assume it doesn't exist or whatever, right? But when I would ask these guys that were older than me, they were like super successful, some of them really successful these days, and they'd be like, sure, because they'd see I was about it, on my page. You see I'm doing stuff. You see I'm posting the shoes I'm shipping out and everything, posting about, actually, they had like a major like personal finance arc too for like 6 to 12 months there back in 2020 as well and everything. And with that, like everyone thinks they like need a niche. Talking to someone about this the other day, like the niche is you. The niche is you. The niche is your interest, right? Early Flips for Miles was purely hardcore shoe reselling, right? Then it became selling shoes on Poshmark and eBay along with StockX. Then it became selling used books on Amazon. And then it became selling shoes, but also personal finance and investing. And then the past 4 years, it's been like hardcore, all things pretty much exclusively, Amazon online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure it'll evolve because I plan on evolving and everything, right? But yeah, like there's like no one's life ever got worse by having a lot of people know, like, and trust them. right? And doing that in a physical sense is very difficult these days. People spend all day on their phones. So give yourself that upside, give yourself that upside. Only person holding you back from that is you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now did Seller Amp talk to us a little bit about like Seller Amp and the partnership that you guys had? Cause I feel like it was really unique. Cause I remember one year that was like the software everyone used. And then I remember next year at the Miami Seller Conference, like you were getting up on stage with them and kind of like talking about the product, and everyone had the t-shirts on. And I was like, what just happened? Like, how is that even possible? Didn't even know that was like a partnership like that could exist. Kind of just like walk us through that, like how it happened, like some of the excitement like behind it, like with you and a lot of the other guys who are partners with them and everything like that.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So basically, didn't mention Warner, but I mentioned Jake and Danny and those guys. Warner like joined our friend group pretty quick too, and he was an important, like obviously still is today a massive component that puts out a ton of good value. Fields of Profit, everyone
I love
listen to this
his
should check
early
out his
videos,
game
man.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like he does a really, really good job with like really good breaking stuff down and everything. And so me and him, because he was making YouTube videos, and I found him, and I saw he had already followed me on IG, so I like hit him up and was like, "Yo, you want to come to this Zoom call? You want to join this group chat?" It was in April of 2021. Good times. We got on Zoom. It was when he was in the bedroom. Real OGs know the bedroom Fields of Profit content.
I remember that setup for sure.
And we were talking about stuff, and I remember is when he would wear the hat in the videos too. And I remember he was telling us about this wholesale item he was selling. Well, I think it was a gunsling or something like that. And I spent like all night trying to find his store to storefront stock him, and I couldn't find it. But we ended up being pretty good friends, basically. And then we started this Discord together. It's still going these almost 4 years later, and everything. And basically just ended up forming a partnership with SellerAmp. We're co-owners of the company now, and everything. It's been really, really a awesome thing the past couple of years. And it's been really fun to be a part of bringing some things to light in respect to the actual software component of SellerAmp and everything. So really a lot of fun, and big shout out to Alan Allison and the team at SellerAmp for helping make that possible and continue to do a phenomenal job to serve Amazon sellers at large. And we'll all get to hang out again at Miami Sellers Conference soon.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, we still use, I think SellerAmp is probably the only profit calculator that we've used, and we still use it today.
Same, literally the whole time, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, Josh, you got any other questions?
Talk to us about, new sellers coming into the space. And I kind of want to talk about Boxem too, just another software, again, that you kind of work through. Talk to us a little bit about what Boxem can do for individuals, how they can use it, and how, Boxem can kind of support their business.
Yeah, for sure. So, so basically about a year and a half ago, we had the idea to make a listing and analytics software, basically. And Fields of Profit, and then Danny, Wi-Fi, Ashton, and I, basically us three. And we embarked on the journey. And about a year later, we launched it. And then it's been about 6 months of like kind of fine tuning it, moving it from just a listing software or just a shipment software at the start to then listing as well, as like FBM too, and everything as a part of that. It's always been able to list up, but listing FBM as well. And we have a great team there. We got analytics is in beta right now. The analytics features are sick as well. I'm super excited for those to come out too. And then we got a ton of other ideas in the pipeline for it as well. They'll be pretty cool too on that. So it's like evolving very quick, in that like the tutorials from like 6 months ago are completely outdated. So obviously got to pump out stuff pretty frequently on that. We announced the Aura integration yesterday.
Yep.
A lot of cool features
Dylan
coming
DM'd
soon
me
with
on Twitter about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Coming soon too as well. So very excited to share that as well, and just continuing to do my thing and bring as much game to Amazon sellers as possible in terms like the plan with that. And then luckily incentives are aligned with that. If we do a good job with Boxem, people will use it, so on and so forth, and we'll all hit our goals basically.
Okay. Very, very nice. Like that. Yeah, that's so cool. Software is like just a very important piece of just how well you can sell on Amazon, how well you can reprice all your stuff. Software is like very integral in your business. So make sure you're taking advantage of all softwares that you can, because it's going to help you against competition who don't know how to use certain softwares because they're not in the right friend groups to be able to, understand all that experience that comes along with it. One last question here, Miles. What's one thing that you're looking forward to? Oh,
but before your last question, just real quick story, because that came to mind. Miles, I remember when you were first mentoring us and you yelled at us for not having a repricer.
Oh,
I was
yes.
I was still manually repricing. So I was going on to Seller Central and hitting like the match price button on the little widget.
That is gangster, yeah.
Yeah, and let me tell you, once we got a repricer, that was one of the inflection points in the business.
You didn't have anyone to tell you. You know what I mean?
I did know. I was scared of spending $100.
People to call me out on stuff too. You know?
Yeah. Because we knew for a little bit, we were just scared of spending the $50 or $20, whatever.
Dude, oh my God. I was afraid of buying a book scanning app, which I think was like $14 a month. Wait, literally, I'm actually pretty sure it was like, I'm pretty sure it was about $14 a month. Yeah. That I didn't want to spend. And looking back, it's like, that's fully tax deductible too. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's funny looking back, but you know, you want to feel like an idiot or you want to think the guy you were 6 months ago was an idiot. The guy you were a year ago was an idiot. That shows you're making progress. Everything, right? So, you know, this whole thing's been a major blessing and everything. It's been awesome to, you know, meet guys like you in the process too.
That was just a funny story, Josh. Sorry to cut you off.
That's actually funny because I remember, because I was like at work one day, like treating patients. Again, I'm a physical therapist for people who don't know. And like, dude, there was just one doll that we were selling. We had like 2 left and they were like super profitable, but the buy box was just tanking. I mean, like rip tanking. Like every 2 minutes I would like refresh and I would have to like hit the match price. Like that's what I was doing for like 30 minutes until like both of them sold so we could get them out profitably. I remember that. I'm like, oh gosh, that's terrible. That was a terrible experience. And then Cajua was like, all right, we're getting a repricer. I was like, all right, cool. I'm down.
Yes, sir.
What's kind of like one thing that you're looking forward to this year in terms of like being in the Amazon space, whether it's, you know, trying to figure out like a new model like brand direct or wholesale? Are you leaning towards any of those?
I would say the sell on Walmart world, man, is very intriguing. Yeah, very, very intriguing. Because, you know, we have to be honest with ourselves that Amazon's made some changes over the past years that are now, I hope they'll, like, there's the other years where a ton of stuff gets better. 2021 was an example of it, like with the advanced components like the FBM buy box being a thing back in the day and everything. So there's going to be ebbs and flows naturally, right? But Amazon's made changes where, you know, it doesn't make as much sense to be completely platform dependent as it did, right? And everything. So I love the idea of selling on Walmart and everything too. So I definitely want to learn a lot more about that and everything too. So I'd say that would be kind of like the biggest expansion in relative to like new frontiers that haven't yet been dealt with for me personally, you know?
That's so interesting because it's like I've been peppering Cajua this year to get a lot of our brand directs on Walmart.
When he says this year, he means since the beginning of last year.
Yeah, since the beginning of last year.
Oh, yeah, because that's the kind of thing you take a weekend to get educated, right? And there's a chance that it doesn't end up coming up anything, and then it's like, okay, cool, but at least you can move on to the next thing on the checklist of potential expansions, you know?
Exactly. And so he ended up listing a couple of our brand direct products not too long ago, and they like, again, the volume isn't high, but you know, they're selling. And so it was cool for us to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, instantly selling. Like, wow, we sold 6, you know, in the past 3 days. That's actually pretty decent. Like,
and then you find something that does cook or whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, or some brand gets kicked off Amazon. It's only moving on Walmart. There's a major loot to resell. You know what I mean? It just like, there's stuff's going to, you know, that's definitely, you know, not a bad thing whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Walmart this year is going to be pretty exciting for people. One, doing numbers, and then people kind of figuring out Walmart. Whether it's the analytical side of software, or it's, you know, finding those hidden gems that are out there that everybody can find. It's just which group of friends can find it first and who can move the fastest. So it'll be really interesting to see this year who comes out a really massive Walmart seller. And cause I'm sure there will be new guys this year doing massive numbers on Walmart for sure.
Yeah. So much opportunity. The space is not saturated. Like you said, just get good. And getting good, it's not always easy. It might not always be overnight, but if you're good and you have the right skill set, it's not saturated. There's always money to make. Miles, Absolutely. Thanks so much for your time, brother. It's in the screen, but where can people go find you on socials, on YouTube?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, fellas. This is a ton of fun and everything. I feel like it's such a blessing to get to talk about like the content stuff sometimes because like I feel like so much I'm just talking like hardcore about Amazon stuff. But yeah, Flips for Miles on all platforms, most active Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, a lot of TikTok live too as well. And then in terms of Best place in terms like SellerAmp, SellerAmp.com, 2-week free trial for the profit calculator, online retail arbitrage and wholesale sourcing tool, Boxem.com, Boxem.com for 2 weeks free of listing, shipping, and analytics. And then best place to start in terms like getting up to speed with online arbitrage, if you just search Flips for Miles 8 Hour on YouTube, you'll see an 8-hour free course that about 40,000 people have watched so far. That is an excellent resource that I took a ton of time to put in. I think will be really helpful as well. But really, really appreciate you guys having me on today and appreciate everyone listening too.
Yep. Legend has it that Miles did that 8-hour course in one take.
Oh, yeah. No. It was 4 days in a row, but I wore the same shirt. I was planning on it taking 5 days, but it ended up taking 4 days. Yeah.
Absolute animal. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Everything that Miles just described about where to go find him or Seller Amp Boxem, all of those will also be linked in the descriptions below. So just scroll down a little bit. And if you want to sign up for one of those tools, you can click those links. If you got value from this episode, which if you didn't, you must have just not been listening. But if you got value from this episode, give us a like, give us a subscribe or a follow wherever you're listening. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.